It turns out that some of the absolute most powerful healing meals ever eaten by human beings weren't invented last year by a trendy nutritionist, and they definitely weren't cooked up in some modern laboratory either. Nope. They were actually written down thousands of years ago in biblical texts. Now, these weren't just your casual, everyday recipes. They acted as incredibly precise, perfectly synergistic nutritional systems that kept ancient populations strong, resilient, and surviving in really harsh conditions. So in today's Explainer, we're going to look at 10 of these ancient meals and discover exactly how modern science is actually backing them up today.
Let's move to the agenda and see how this all builds. We're going to map out our journey today across 4 main pillars of health: survival and gut health, energy and cell repair, the power of consistency, and finally, the ultimate synergy feast.
All right, starting us off with Chapter 1, Survival, Immunity, and Gut Health.
Okay, let's dive into this. It is absolutely vital to understand that in the ancient world, everyday food was not a luxury. Out in these harsh, arid climates, food was quite literally a daily tool for pure survival and defending your immune system against constant everyday threats. Take meal number 10, the cucumber mint yogurt bowl. When the Israelites were craving cucumbers in the hot wilderness, it wasn't just because they wanted a tasty snack. It was a survival strategy. Cucumbers are over 96% water, and they pack silica for your connective tissue plus vitamin K. But what's really fascinating is what happens when you combine them with fermented goat's milk yogurt. See, ancient goat's milk has a much gentler casein protein than modern cow's milk, which means way less inflammation. And when you ferment it, boom, it becomes a living probiotic powerhouse that actively trains your immune system. Toss in some fresh mint, which physically relaxes your digestive tract and stops spasms, and you've got a masterpiece. They intentionally use this hydrating cooling bowl to calm their nervous system and repair the gut.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point, meal number 9, the garlic and herb lentil soup. This is basically a daily maintenance protocol for your immune system in a bowl. You start with the base of lentils, getting that complete plant protein, slow-burning energy, and fiber that literally feeds your gut bacteria. Then it gets super interesting. You crush up generous amounts of fresh garlic. By crushing it, you instantly create a compound called allicin. Science now confirms allicin is incredible at fighting off viruses and lowering blood pressure. Fun fact, ancient Egyptians actually recorded over 20 separate medicinal uses for garlic centuries before we even knew what allicin was. Finally, you stir in cumin and coriander to calm the gut and finish it off with olive oil so that every single fat-soluble nutrient becomes highly bioavailable. You're basically unlocking the food's full potential.
Moving right along to number 8, we've got the pomegranate and barley grain bowl. Now, once pomegranates hit your gut, they break down into some of the most powerful anti-inflammatory and artery-protecting compounds found anywhere in nature. Combine that serious cardiovascular protection with a base of whole barley, which delivers a cholesterol-lowering fiber called beta-glucan, and you've got an absolute masterclass in heart health. Throw in some walnuts or feta for omega-3s and calcium, and it's the perfect meal. It's crazy to think about, but they actually built pomegranates into their most sacred architecture, carving them right into King Solomon's temple pillars and the high priest's robe. They didn't know the chemical names, obviously, but generation after generation, they witnessed these undeniable heart health outcomes.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, Sustained Energy and Cellular Repair.
Now, what's really interesting to see here is how ancient populations intuitively knew how to combine specific ingredients to totally hack their metabolism for long, grueling journeys. Let's look at meal number 7, dates stuffed with nuts. If you just eat dates alone, you get a massive rapid hit of natural glucose, fructose, fiber, and potassium. They're amazing. Clinical trials even show they aid in pregnancy deliveries. But on their own, they can definitely cause a quick blood sugar spike. However, if you stuff those dates with nuts, like almonds, walnuts, or pistachios, the healthy fats and proteins slow down the absorption of those sugars. It perfectly flattens out that blood sugar spike, turning rapid, jittery energy into smooth, sustained fuel. It was the ultimate portable nutritional system for desert travelers.
Coming in at number 6 is the grape and goat cheese plate. The vine is hugely prominent in Scripture, right? From Noah planting a vineyard right after the flood, all the way to the Passover table. Eating whole grapes, specifically the skin and the seeds, delivers these incredibly powerful cellular repair compounds. But here is the kicker that modern immunologists are freaking out over today. The real magic is in the pairing. When you match those specific grape compounds with probiotic-rich, aged fermented goat cheese, it creates this unbelievable chemical synergy. Modern researchers are actively studying this exact pairing in the lab right now because those two foods together trigger an immune and gut health response that is just off the charts. It's not just a fancy charcuterie snack, folks.
Let's look at meal number 5, roasted lamb with dates and herbs. Lamb is arguably the most ceremonially significant animal in all of Scripture. It's there for Abraham. It's the center of Passover. So, first off, slow roasted lamb gives a physically depleted, worn-down body highly bioavailable iron, zinc, B6, and B12 to completely rebuild itself. But here's the genius part. By eating it with dates, the natural fruit acids from the dates scientifically enhanced your body's ability to absorb that lamb's iron. And on top of that, roasting the meat over herbs like rosemary, thyme, and hyssop literally infuses it with antimicrobial compounds. That makes the rich animal fat so much easier for your stomach to digest. They were naturally maximizing their nutrient absorption without even realizing the chemistry behind it.
Meal number 4 is a real stunner: figs and almonds. There's a story buried in scripture about King Hezekiah, who had a severe, life-threatening boil infection. And what does the prophet Isaiah do? He prescribes a paste made directly out of figs to cure him. Well, why did that work? Because figs contain this specific enzyme called physin that breaks down damaged tissue and promotes rapid wound healing. Figs are basically an ancient multivitamin. And it turns out, pairing mineral-dense figs with almonds, which are packed with fat-soluble vitamin E and gut-feeding magnesium, creates a virtually flawless biochemical combination. The ancient world respected this life-giving power so much that they carved the almond blossom directly into the sacred menorah and Aaron's rod.
All of this naturally leads us to a massive, really mind-boggling question. How on earth did they know? Right? I mean, they didn't have double-blind clinical trials. They definitely didn't have microscopes to look at physin enzymes or allicin compounds. So how'd they do it? Well, they had thousands of years of consistent, generational observation, watching what actually worked, day in and day out, century after century. That was their version of the scientific method.
And that perfectly transitions us to Chapter 3, the power of consistency.
See, ancient wellness wasn't about jumping on the latest TikTok juice cleanse or buying a super expensive fad superfood. It was about the boring, brilliant power of eating the exact same medicinal foods every single day for your entire life. Take meal number 3, chickpea and olive salad. So the crucial point here is that chickpeas have been eaten consistently across the Near East for about 10,000 years. Their glycemic index is so low that they produce almost zero blood sugar response. Plus, their resistant starch actively reduces systemic inflammation and pulls down your bad LDL cholesterol. Dress them with cold-pressed olive oil, and the combo naturally shields your arteries. It perfectly matches modern data showing that eating legumes faithfully, day after day, is quite literally the #1 dietary habit linked to healthy aging across the globe. This simple dish beats any modern fad diet hands down.
Meal number 2 is barley bread with olive oil. This was the dark, dense, hearty bread eaten by everyday laborers. It's what Jesus used to feed the 5,000. While the barley itself is loaded with that cholesterol-pulling beta-glucan fiber we talked about, the real magic happens when you drench that bread in extra virgin olive oil. Turns out, that oil contains a natural anti-inflammatory compound that uses the exact same chemical pathway in your body as modern ibuprofen. Eating this bread and oil every single day was literally a daily metabolic intervention. It acted just like a steady dose of ibuprofen for chronic disease signals, but with absolutely zero side effects. Just incredible.
All right, we made it. Chapter 4, the ultimate synergy feast.
We are at the #1 spot on our list, and we're treating this not just as an agricultural description, but as a jaw-droppingly precise medical prescription from antiquity. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 8, God is describing the promised land to Moses. And he doesn't just use vague, general terms. He lists 7 specific foods by name. Listen to this: a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, which actually refers to dates. Together, these form the absolute ultimate nutritional masterclass. When modern cancer researchers and gut specialists take these 7 specific foods and analyze them together, they discover a completely flawless system. Look at how this works. Wheat and barley give you complete proteins, beta-glucan fiber, and slow-burning energy. The grapes step in to switch on your cellular repair processes. The figs supply the exact missing minerals like magnesium and calcium that the brains just don't have. Then the pomegranates drop in with unmatched anti-inflammatory antioxidants. The olives, they provide the fat to unlock the absorption for all those fat-soluble nutrients. And the dates round it out with rapid energy and potassium. Literally every single ingredient scientifically covers the exact nutritional gaps of the others. And this brings us to the ultimate synergistic effect. When you eat these ancient ingredients together, they produce healing effects that are exponentially greater than anything a single food could generate on its own. It's just wild to realize that these biblical dietary habits weren't primitive superstitions. They were highly advanced, perfectly engineered nutritional systems. It's taken us 3,000 years, but modern science is only just now validating what these ancient populations intuitively knew and practiced every single day. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Which ancient meal are you going to make this week? Seriously, ditch the grocery store imitations, skip the ultra-processed fads, and pick just one of these historically proven, scientifically validated meals to cook up. Experience thousands of years of human wisdom for yourself. There's so much more ancient wisdom out there to explore, and I hope this deep dive has left you absolutely eager to learn more.